Let's get real here. You were taught your body is dirty.
By like commercials, every commercial ever, by the comments in your social media, by the things that other people say.
In the magazines, in religious doctrine.
Oof.
The examples of ways we were taught shame are endless. But if you found this video, then you're probably one of the people who is doing the work to reclaim the sacred within their own body.
Like us.
This is The Witch's Bedroom, and today we are going to be telling you the 5 things we wish we knew and that you need to know about the sacred feminine.
Stay tuned for number 4. It's really juicy. We're talking about how we deal with our shame around sex.
Yeah. I'm Wysteria Root.
I'm Zelda Bell. Welcome
to The Witch's Bedroom!
We're so happy to be here.
Okay, so point number 1 of the 5 things you need to know about the sacred feminine is that everybody has it. What does that mean?
Well, we talk about the sacred feminine and we think that maybe that just applies to people who identify as feminine bodied or who were born as women, and it's just not true. Sacred femininity applies to all kinds of people, because it's a name that we use for an energy that honors the feminine essence in every single person.
In a very popular ancient text, the Kabbalion, which is a composition of a bunch of other ancient texts written by a bunch of teachers turned into one pile that basically outlines kind of the 5 laws of the universe. One of the things that they talk about is the principle of polarity, which essentially means that everything has both masculine and feminine in this. The reason why I bring up these ancient texts is because this is not a new idea. This isn't some like trendy new age thing where we're like, everybody can embody everything.
No, or everybody's the goddess, which is kind of true, but it's not a new idea.
Exactly. Everyone has within them masculine and feminine polarities. What would you define as like the traits that masculinity and femininity hold within?
You know, this can vary because we see this in world cultures, that every world culture with human history has a history of masculine and feminine energy and the way that they identify it, the way that they combine it, the way that they blend those energies, and sometimes those definitions are a little bit different. But generally, we tend to see masculine energy categorized as active, assertive, sometimes even aggressive energy. That passion and willpower and drive that gets us to get things done. Sometimes we see it in our active desire in our bodies, all kinds of bodies.
Right. In astrology, it's defined as Mars energy. So if you're wanting to figure out how you go about getting what you want, you would look at your Mars astrology sign. And also when we talk about masculine and we see it in nature, it can be something like the trunk and the roots of the tree, where the leaves, the color of the bark, all those sorts of things are going to be the more feminine quality because they're more about expression and receptivity, where the masculine is like the structure that holds it all in place.
And know that these energies aren't just about sex in the ways that people have sex with each other. These energies are more about the ways that we enjoy each other throughout everyday life. And where somebody can be assertive in the bedroom, there are also ways to be assertive in the workplace, in the boardroom, and apply that kind of energy to things other than a relationship dynamic.
So how do we see the feminine show up?
Oh, that's a really good question. Because that's the work that we do. It's so important that we're passionate about it and we teach about it. I like to look for the feminine in the mirror, that sacred feminine, and the sacred masculine too. We all have both. But the feminine that we look to broadly, again, this is a huge generalization, but what we see in ancient texts and in modern day is the feminine tends to be creative, intuitive, nurturing energy. We think about this feminine capacity to bring life into the world, to carry a baby, literally. But as a metaphor for that feminine energy, that's the ability to birth a creative project or a business or a family.
Yeah. I think of the feminine a lot through movement and through the process of life and death. because the feminine is both like the womb and also the void in many different archetypes and myths about what the feminine represents. There's multiple aspects to it, right? There's like that soft, gentle, nurturing energy, and then there's also like the destroyer, the liberator, and so there's a lot of complexities in the many facets of both masculine and feminine.
That's true, the masculine energy too, because we see these warrior archetypes that can be characterized by violent masculinity. But the other side of that same spectrum is the urge to protect those who maybe can't protect themselves, and that can be a wholesome instinct.
What does this look like for people who are like non-binary or agender or trans? How do they fit into the story of sacred femininity?
I like understanding those polarities because then that gives all kinds of people really a framework to work within, right? And understanding, we work with so many people about understanding what it means to them to be feminine, what it means to them for their own personal journey to be masculine. Because these are universal energies, we can all choose from them how we want to present ourselves in the world, what feels right for us in any given moment, what we want to grow into aspirationally too. And for all of our siblings who are somewhere different on that gender spectrum, that gives them more on their plate, more abundance to choose from, that they can embody all kinds of archetypes. Whatever fits their unique creative spirit.
Absolutely. I also, like, as a non-binary person who leans very feminine, I love the ability to say that I can be fully feminine in my expression and still very connected to my masculine energy.
Yeah.
You know, like, there are moments where I am standing up for what I believe in or getting tasks done in a certain way that I feel very powerful and I feel very strong. And it's in a different way that I feel powerful and strong when I'm really deep in my feminine, like when I'm really connected to my community, when I'm watching people grow from things that we've taught each other. Then there's more like feminine strength, or when I'm bleeding.
Totally.
That is, you know, so it's different kinds of strengths and different kinds of moments where I use different parts of our capacity for energy.
And you know, where we find all those energies, they're in the ways that we present ourselves. And especially, and this is going to lead right into number 2. The second thing that you need to know about the sacred feminine is, here it comes. It's in you, baby. You can find it in your body. When we talk about the masculine and feminine energy that we can choose from, that we can embody in our lives intentionally, we look within us to find where our feelings are, where those sensations are coming from, what kind of baggage we're carrying in our body through our history that makes us who we are.
Absolutely. Our bodies are so powerful. They are literally portals. They hold ancient wisdom, they hold kinetic energy, and they continue to function even without us having to tell them to, which is just really fascinating and powerful to me. One thing that I really wish that I knew when I started my spiritual healing individuation journey is what people are actually talking about when they say the inner child or the subconscious mind, because those two words sound so ethereal, right? The inner child, like it's this some being that lives inside of you, or the subconscious mind, like it's the things that are deep beneath the surface that you have to do a blah 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 kind of meditation to access, you know, and all those things felt like you really had to transcend your body to connect with what was going to heal you. But when I learned that your inner child, your subconscious mind, is literally your body's memory, like that blew my mind and changed the way that I look at the world, the way that I've been able to heal myself, the ways that I've been able to interact with clients and things like that. Because what I mean by that is your body was literally there, right? Our cells regenerate and all that sort of thing. But when you were in the corner as a kid and you couldn't speak up for yourself and you didn't get to say no, like your body was there. It remembers that. And so if you've never been able to process that, then I really have found in my work as an energy healer and just throughout my own journey that energy can get stuck inside of our body in different places, and it can cause a lot of physical discomfort, it can cause a lot of insecurity, and it can lead to, you know, so many things that make us feel less like our best self. And so when I realized that I'm not trying to connect with something out there or a distant memory in order to heal myself, but really I just need to tune into what my feelings are saying, my physical sensations are saying, what the inputs of my body are giving me. Then I can better understand how to work with where I'm at to get to where I actually want to be. And a lot of that has come from, you know, healing pretty severe kidney issues that I had, healing from like hormone problems with my regularity of my cycle and all those sorts of things, and healing from eating disorders. You know, like I've done a lot of inner work, and the thing that, like I said, really transitioned for me was when I stopped looking for spirit out there and I started connecting with the spirit that inhabits this flesh temple.
In a temple indeed. It is. That's interesting that I had some similar experiences along my spiritual journey, but maybe from a slightly different perspective, because like we talked at the beginning of the video about how some of the messages that we hear our body really bring us a lot of shame if we still carry that stuff around.
Yeah.
It's hard to love yourself in a world where maybe you don't see people like you on screen, or maybe you don't have examples of healthy living, or the type of body that you have isn't popular in the culture, or it's not what you see on magazines. Or the commercials are telling you that you have to change something about yourself. You have to buy this stuff in order to be worthy or lovable. And I was a fat kid. It was hard not to hear all that stuff and think that it was telling me that there was something wrong with me. And so for a long time, I thought my spiritual journey had to be about me and God, because I grew up in a Christian tradition in the church. And while I had many positive experiences there, none of them really connected me to myself. And I never really saw women that looked like me in a place of reverence even. I mean, reverence is such a high honor, but even as worthy contributors, and especially as we look to these cultural models. I was very lucky to have some powerful women role models, even spiritual ones. But in my own spiritual journey, things changed so much for me when I realized that my spiritual journey, at least lately in my life, because it certainly can be wacky, it's not between me and the divine up here and outside of my body and the God above, this upward trajectory. It's going inward. It's learning about this body that I have, this beautiful place that I get to inhabit for the rest of my days, that I'm really grateful for and that I really love, and that those messages that I hear outside of me don't always line up with the love that I have for myself. And when I'm in my quiet time in my witch's bedroom, sometimes I feel those messages still. So doing this work is for me too, to keep moving through what I'm ready to shake off and let go of, and learning to love the body that I have that's changing every day. So there's this spiritual journey for me in my body, and there's one there for you too.
So much of what you said was so resonant and very powerful, and I have two things that I want to get into about it. Number one, I've heard so many powerful women, incredible witches, people who have done this work, people who are interested in their own pleasure, who know about how to decondition their mind and have been doing that actively for years. And they'll still come to us and say, you know, when I'm alone, I still think that I need to look a certain way to feel beautiful. Or I need to hold in my feelings because I'm not safe to like fully express myself. And so there's so much of that societal conditioning that I feel like really comes out when we are alone, when we are in our bedroom, because nobody else is like witnessing us or uplifting us. And I think as feminine energy, we love to be seen. Like we crave to be witnessed and seen and held in our fullness. And so part of what I love about this work of the witch's bedroom is like inside of our privacy, when we're alone, is when we get to be most real with ourselves and most honest about how do I actually feel? Not how do I want to feel, but what is really inside of me and how do I work with that? And I just see that kind of work, when people do it, it is truly life-changing and transformational. And the other question that I wanted to ask you is, you said that you had really powerful women spiritual role models, and I wanted to ask who some of those people have been.
Oh, that's a great question. Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. My ancestors, my literal mother. I love my mom so much. My mom gave me a lot of gifts with my body. My body's just like my mom's, and my mom is beautiful. One of the gifts that she gave me is that she was very comfortable, and still is, in her 70s. I love her so much, with casual nudity around the house. Like, if you live there, sometimes people are naked, and that's a normal and healthy way to be. And you don't have to have shame around your body like that. And so I saw a woman's body that looks just like mine. In my house every day is like, this is what a healthy woman looks like. And that was such a powerful thing for me that affects me even now, that gives me comfort and pride in the body that I've inherited even now. I was lucky enough in the church that I grew up in to be part of the youth folks who could kind of elect the new pastor in our church, and we chose a woman. And even though this was a Presbyterian church where it was mostly run by men, and probably still is, there was a really cool woman who was the shepherd of that spiritual community for a while, and it was powerful for me to see a woman at the front of the church. And that's one of the reasons that I stayed with it as long as I did.
I'm sure in different episodes we'll get more into your journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of walking away from that. For me, some of my spiritual role models, other than you,
Thanks.
I've been really lucky with the powerful spiritual women who have come into my life, especially over this last year. I've been a professional tarot reader for 4 years, and in that process I've met so many powerful, intuitive, kind, unique women. And last January I experienced a really big family tragedy, the kind that Shakespeare wrote about, that is cinematically tragic and shatters your whole world. And in the process of putting myself back together after that, the most potent medicine that I found to my broken heart was the power of a woman's generosity. There have been so many women who have welcomed me into their circles and taught me what they've learned and showed me what helped them and held me through my experience and listened to me in a way that just made me feel like I wasn't alone and like I wasn't crazy, which really brings us into our third point of what we think everybody needs to know about the sacred feminine, which is that you can find it in yourself, but you can also find it in your sisters and in your community. And it's one of the most healing things in the entire world to sit in circle with other women and with other people who are really embracing their feminine, because there's this uplifting that happens that says, oh, like, you are the goddess of teaching, and you are the goddess of this, and you are the goddess of that, and I, like, respect you so deeply, and, like, I'm over here, and I'm the goddess of these different things.
Ooh, I get to reflect that to you, that you're the goddess of divination and empathy. You're the goddess of underworld archetypes and transformation.
True.
Yeah.
And we see that we have so much to receive from each other, and that we are so similar, and that we've walked these similar journeys, and also the gifts that we've gained from them, the gems that we've picked up along the way, are so different. And so it's like, I really feel like when you're in a circle of people who are celebrating the sacred feminine, that you just start this whirlpool of uplifting love.
How do you think a community like that is different than other spaces?
I think one thing that separates sacred feminine from everyday feminine is a level of accountability and a level of what's the right word for it? I would say a level of curiosity, right? Because the deeper you go into your journey with your creative energy, the more...
There's that sacred feminine again.
Yeah, the more you start to take ownership and agency over your emotions, over your beliefs, your thoughts, and so it makes it a lot easier to know yourself, and so it makes it a lot easier to witness other people without projecting onto them. And so when you're in a circle that is really focusing on sacred feminine, you're able to witness deeply and ask questions about the other person's life and about what would help them and how you could uplift them and what their reality is, without trying to say being in competition mode or trying to give your 2 cents all the time. Instead, it's like, I trust you to be able to work through what you need to work through. I'm just here to support you. I'm here to uplift you. Someone who I think really exemplifies that container and the work that she's done and has created such like this ripple effect of goddesshood is Regina.
Oh yeah, Mama Gina, Regina Thomasauer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope we're saying her name right. She's amazing.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too when you were saying that, because she is very intentional. And we read about this. We're reading this book from Mama Gina called Pussy, a Reclamation. Shout out to Mama Gina. It's a great book. And we're talking about it. We're talking about it in the Bedroom Coven. And if you stick around for our extended version of the podcast, you'll hear a lot more about it. But one of her focuses in working with women is just what you're talking about here.
That she calls her participants of her program sister goddesses. And
and they have this particular focus on like not being a bitch fest, not swimming in negativity, not being in competition with each other, and not being catty. And that's kind of like the other side that we see of femininity sometimes. That's definitely one of the shadows of it, is that women can be intimidated by each other and competition with each other, which is why it's so vital that we create intentional spaces where we can be vulnerable and open with each other.
And there's so many things about the ways that women relate to one another that are demonized by patriarchy, such as the idea of gossiping. Like, that is some patriarchal bullshit, you know, because the way that
women talking to each other
about their lives.
Oh my
imagine.
Goodness. No. What?
Oh my god, shut that lady up, you know? Like, that is just, there's so many things like that in our culture that are so healthy and so necessary for us to be able to express and experience, that just get turned into this like shameful thing, you know?
Oh, can I jump on this one? Because one of those things that I wish I'd known about the sacred feminine is that everybody masturbates.
Oh,
right? And it's so juicy. That's like one of those things where when you're in circle and people can talk about how they have rituals of self-pleasure, that people have favorite things that they do to feel better. This really helps us, and when we don't talk about it, like so many aspects of our sexual health and our sex lives and our desires and our libido, so we don't know what's normal and we feel a lot of shame.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And we think that the way that we get pleasure is dirty and wrong. Going back to this whole idea of like, we've all been taught that our bodies are dirty, right? Yeah. So it's like, what is the right way to pleasure yourself? What is the right way to express yourself? What is the right way to feel good? You know, earlier I was talking about how Mars is the masculine, but Venus is the feminine. And when you look at your Venus sign in astrology, it talks about how do you receive? Like, what is it that inspires you? What is the best way that you feel nurtured? If somebody wanted to pour into you, what would be the way that you would receive it easiest? And when we don't talk about pleasure, masturbation, sex, and things like that, especially for women, that we just don't even know. So then we're like hiding in our bedrooms doing it when it's like a very natural process.
Bad about something that can be beautiful and healthy. And you know, receiving overall, that's something that we get within community, and that's one of these archetypes of the sacred feminine. The masculine is active and the feminine can be receiving, and that goes to like the sex act itself. But even as a metaphor, women teach each other how to receive, because culture teaches us to give. That's our value, is the way that we serve other people and what we do for others and the work that we perform.
I have something really interesting to say about that. One place that I see that really show up is in like male-female relationship dynamics. Because many ways. Women are amazing friends, right? Like my platonic women friends will be like, let me order the takeout before you get here, like let me get you your favorite flowers, like let's go on this whole day, and it's like a beautiful date, right? And they do the most, because that's just how we naturally want to give and nourish people, but then also kind of how we're taught to like nourish our partners and stuff like that. So it's our natural way of giving love, is creating this whole performance of love. And then especially in relationships with women who are like trying to find those in integrity masculines but end up with kind of the wounded masculine energy, they'll celebrate them for doing like minimum. You know, they'll be like, oh my god, he held the door for me once. That was so...
He washed a dish.
That was so chivalrous of him, you know? And like, no shade to like the men who do the work, you know? Like, I love the divine masculine, 100%, totally into it. But I'm talking specifically right now about like the very childish men. And when women are like, oh my gosh, like when they don't know how to receive yet, because they don't know that they're worthy of more than that, because society says that like we're gonna take care of our husbands, you know, like they're gonna do all like the working and whatever, and like he's not expected to reciprocate in the same way that women just naturally are taught to perform love. And so I find that when we have relationships with women in platonic ways or even in romantic ways, that there's this deeper level of generosity that I think a lot of women are craving from the masculine. They're like, I want to be witnessed. I want to be loved. My friends are so good to me. You know, like, I want you to be
it feels
this
good
and
to
more.
receive.
Yeah. And so I think that that's something that, like, if you're a man watching this, like, women are craving not the performance as in it's performative, but as in
the intention,
the ritual of love, you know, like,
we like the roses, we like the poetry.
Yeah, clean off, not even that much, clean off the counter.
Oh, that's
light a
the
candle.
best.
They'll feel so special.
A candle. I love it when I light a candle.
Yeah, like there are these
My partner
moments...
put gas in my car, and it was just the sweetest thing yesterday.
Right, rituals of love.
Yeah, and they come in all kinds.
Yeah, and we find that through community and giving to each other in ways that decentralize romantic relationships as like the priority. That's another place that we really see patriarchy coming up with the sacred feminine, is like it's ingrained into us that like you need to be in love, right? Like you need to be in partnership, you need to be in union, centralize your
every
relationship as a
television
partner.
show ever made.
Ever, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my idea is like, what if I centralize my friendships? What if I centralize my platonic relationships? What if I centralize like all of these other people who are pouring into me, and then my romantic partner is somebody who's part of that network, but they're not like the nucleus of my world. Something that scares me is the way that the atomic family, the patriarchal dynamic really isolates people, not even just women, but everybody from each other. You know, you become this like unit where you're like these two people who are living through the world, and sometimes you might be social, but I find, especially after COVID, like more and more people are so isolated. And I think that when we lean into our sacred feminine energy, we really create community. We naturally seek it out, and that community is one of the things that makes us stronger and makes us happier and live longer lives.
And it's a solution in so many times, in so many ways. We're not supposed to go through this alone. You're not supposed to, the struggles you've been carrying, if they feel heavy, right? We need to be able to ask for help. We need to be able to receive it when it shows up too. And all of those things are so much harder to do than they are to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the ways that I learned that is, again, from like teachers in my family that I'm really lucky to have, which leads us number 4.
Oh, I just give you free toes. You're welcome, internet.
The 4th thing that you need to know about the sacred feminine is that you're carrying the body of your ancestors, and their triumph and struggle is alive in you. The successes of everyone who overcame hardship and survived the famine and brought the family together after struggle and war and who knows what in your deep past. You carry that strength within you. You also carry in your epigenetic markers some of the signs of the struggles. We learn in our families of origin growing up, we learn solutions, we learn about the world, and sometimes we learn coping mechanisms that we don't need later on in life, right? We have some carryovers that maybe when you were a little kid and you learned that the world needed to be a certain way in order to survive. For me, sometimes it was being quiet and I needed to hide, right? And everybody kind of learned things that we get to unlearn as we carry with us. Well, some of those skills that kept us safe as kids, they came from our DNA, from our ancestors. Thanks, Grandma.
There's this really beautiful poem, and I don't remember the author, and I'm probably paraphrasing it, but it's basically like, I am a result Or I am the living embodiment of my mother's deepest fears and her wildest unmet longings.
Ooh.
Yeah. Isn't that so good? Shout out to whoever wrote that.
Juicy.
And I see that in the point that you're making, where it's like, as children, we watch and we learn so much from our moms, who learn so much from their moms, who learn so much from their moms, you know, and the lineage of sisterhood and what we were talking about the ways that's been deeply wounded and affected and distorted in a lot of ways, and how that gets kind of passed down until somebody says, like, what am I feeling? Like, why do I feel so scared? Why do I feel so much shame around the way that I look? Why am I constantly trying to be smaller or trying to sound a different way, or whatever it is that was passed on through you and that you're healing? And you know, when you're on that spiritual journey, a lot of us are cycle breakers, you know, we're like, I know that there's a better way and we don't have to live like this. And there's some other way that we can heal, and that I don't have to live in this place of fight or flight and self-protection and kind of running for myself. And that's a gift that I want to give to every woman in the entire world.
And speaking of those, like, ancestors that we have, some of those, like the women that we've talked about who influenced us so deeply, some of those are our spiritual ancestors. And what I love is that you can show me a way that you know to work with a shadow that maybe I'm grappling with, and it'll really resonate. And that I have teaching and learnings too from my spiritual teachers that I'm so grateful. It's my honor to pass on to you, to our bedroom coven, to the people that we work with, the people that we teach. That the struggles that we carry, the trauma that's sometimes ancestral, it gets to be met with the compassion and the loving heart. Oh, that gets me. But that's part of what I inherited from the strong women in my life, was that love. Yeah. That's sacred feminine too.
Absolutely. How do you deal with the shadows and the shame and the pain when it comes up?
Oh, geez. That's a big question.
Yeah.
With a lot of answers. I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for a long, long time, in part because research is one of my coping mechanisms. I'm one of those nerdy folks who like to look it up and find out all the reasons why things are that way, and it helps me understand. And I know that I'm not the only one. So education is a big thing for me. Is like, I go looking if I have this obstacle, if I'm carrying shame about something that is so heavy, right? And so if I'm feeling shame about it, I want to find out. I'll try sometimes my own experiments with it. I'll do my own rituals.
I have a question.
But
sorry not to cut you off, but how do you know when you're having a shame response? Because I think that a lot of times people don't even necessarily realize that what's going on is they're having a shame response. Oh,
that's a really good question. This kind of goes back to where we were talking about feeling our feelings in our body, right? And it shows up for different people in different ways. So I can't just say, like, your face gets flushed. Like, that's true for a lot of people, but that's not everybody. And it's not every experience of shame either. But I was just talking to a friend, another great coach who I know, shout out to Billy Heath, thank you, about the 4 F's that we do maybe when we're confronted and we're coping with a situation, right? The fight or flight we all know about. Then we get freeze. Then we get fawn, right?
Fawn is a bitch.
It is a bitch. So any one of those 4 are
Yeah.
real likely candidates to show up if I'm having a shame reaction. Yeah. Let's say you say something that sets off my shame around my body. Right. That can happen. Fight might be I'm in denial. Like, that's not true. I'm not really like that.
Like aggressive.
Yeah, or feel defensive about it. It's very normal and common as a first reaction.
I've definitely had that response.
Me too. Yeah. And when I feel that, I feel tightness in my chest. I feel like my arms get tight, like they really want to fight. Flight, I'm just gonna shut down. I'm gonna nope out. Yeah. No, thank you. I don't want to talk about it at all. I might even leave the room. Yeah.
Freeze for me, blankie mode. Like, I will just be so, like, I can't move. You know, all I want to do is just lay on the ground. And I find that what gets me out of that is I will put like a blanket over my entire body. I will go cocoon, chrysalis mode. And I will let my body just sit in the darkness until it's ready to emerge again. Because sometimes I just can't deal.
That's a good phrase, maybe.
Sometimes I just need to check out, you know, I just... Ugh.
And fawn might be that, like, I agree, maybe too enthusiastic, like, yeah!
To so many things.
I'm like that too, yeah,
and then I
that's
leave,
just so true.
and I'm like, wow, I
No.
just said a bunch of shit that wasn't true.
All those are coping mechanisms that have healthy applications in our lives that keep
Yeah.
us safe, right? But then can get blown out of proportion. But they're things that we can learn to feel in our bodies so that when we've got this confrontation response and then you feel something, you feel tightness come up, you feel your throat close, you feel blood flush.
Yeah.
And maybe some internal resistance emotionally too to confronting a new idea. And when we talk a lot about sex in the work that we do, and everyone I know has shame around some facet of sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger question is, like, these reactions are automatic in our bodies, but what we can learn to do is to meet them where we're at now and work with those reactions in our body. So, like, that's your first question is, what do you do with the shadows? What do you do with the shame when it comes up in your body?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just first is acknowledging that it's there and consenting to it.
Yeah.
And that is so hard.
Right.
Rather than saying, I wish that I was happy right now, I have to sit with the sadness if I'm having a sad time.
I have to accept that I feel the way that I feel. And the moment that I learned to accept the way that I felt instead of shaming myself for feeling shame, the faster I was able to feel better. Now I'm able to move through my emotions really rapidly because I can feel the crushing grief come up and I can say, oh, this is crushing grief. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to feel the way that this kinetic energy is being moved through my body right now. Maybe that's tears, maybe that's shaking, maybe that's anger, whatever. And I'm going to somatically, like physically move it around me so that I'm able to process it. Where before I knew how to do this, I would just spend days, it felt like years, just dissociating, just checking out, not being able to engage with myself and wondering why I was so broken. But I wasn't broken, I just was stuck because I hadn't moved these emotions yet. And so the more that I'm able to tune in and feel it in the way that it wants to move me, the more pleasurable my pain gets, because it feels better, you know?
Yeah.
Because now I'm like, wow, I'm really going there. Like, you are the picture of a crying woman right now, and it's beautiful.
Be her.
Exactly.
Be her.
Like, give yourself permission to be messy, you know? Give yourself permission to just let it all out and let your emotion rip through you, because it'll be there, and like the river, it will flow.
And you know, what really gets me to that place is, it sounds cheesy, but self-compassion as a practice. Like, to acknowledge, I mean, sometimes I can do this in the mirror, sometimes that's too much. Try it. It's intense. And to say, like, I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
You're trying hard.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to struggle. You're a person. Some days are hard days. Some days are grief days. Some moments are grief moments. And by giving myself that compassion of, like, it really is like this, and I'm worthy of care when I'm feeling hurt. Makes it easier for me to, like, reflect that way for myself, but also to receive the love from my friends and family, from my community, that makes it easier to heal through those things.
I think that really brings us beautifully into number 5, which is that you're able to find the sacred feminine every day. You don't have to wait for the full moon or the new moon, though those are very effective.
Juicy.
You don't have to wait for the equinox or for, like, whatever holiday, you know? You can literally connect with the goddess within yourself. You can make every day a celebration, every day a ceremony, and it isn't, like, it doesn't cost you as much energy as it sometimes feels when you're first starting to get into, like, ritual craft practice. Because when you're going from living your muggle life, right, where you're checking out on your TikTok all the time, and you go to one place and then you go home and, like, every day feels the same, and you're really, like, rooted in this one routine, the idea of doing a ritual every day feels so daunting, you know? It's like, what do you mean I'm gonna light this candle and meditate? You know, like, that, it sounds like such a simple thing to do, but it actually takes a lot for people to be able to do that. And when we connect with our body's wisdom every single day, all of the ups and downs, the highs and lows of every day becomes so much more meaningful, and also deeper and easier to understand. And what I really like to connect with this sort of numinous, pleasurable entity, spirit that's so much larger than myself, right? Because also when we talk about the divine feminine, it's a life, right? It is the buzz and hum that keeps me alive. It is my fear reminding me that I am worthy of being protected. It is my decaying body and the inevitability of my death, right? All of those things are part of the divine feminine, is the ephemeral nature. And so if I'm able to make every day special, then I feel like I'm living with reverence and honor to my body and to the world and to this beautiful experience I get to get. And
you know, I try to do that too, and I hear that point, like, we have busy lives.
Yeah.
I do a lot. Some of my clients they work harder than I can imagine. But when I'm in that place where I'm so busy all the time, like taking 5 minutes for whatever it is for that ritual makes a huge difference in my state of mind, in my quietude, and we tend to think of rituals as being something really elaborate, but
which there's a place for.
Oh, absolutely. For the veil, for all of it.
Candles on the floor, baby. Candles on the floor.
I love a circle of candles. But sometimes it's a candle.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a 5-minute meditation.
Sometimes it's a 1-card tarot pull.
Oh yeah, we're both tarot readers, so we have cards around all the time. We do that. I do that probably every day, maybe twice a day.
Yeah. And I remember,
just a moment of reflection.
When I first started learning how to read tarot, the idea of doing a daily card pull... Daunting, so intimidating. But now that I'm more in the flow, I'm not like, okay, I have to do this card pull, otherwise I'm not giving reverence. Instead, it's like, okay, like now I feel drawn to do this thing, so I'm gonna let myself do it, Before it felt like, oh, I had to do it to be good. And then when I kind of released that and just was like, what feels right? How can I let my day flow? Now I do movement when it feels right, or I pull my cards when it feels right. And it just ends up being more often because I'm trusting what my body wants to do, what it needs to do. It's that in-between moment where I just finished working on one project and I just want to take a quick check-in with how everything's doing. And so I open up my deck and it just speaks to me, instead of me being like, all right, let me sit down and read my card, because sometimes it's just like too rigid. I think one thing about the feminine is like, let yourself be flexible and change. Like, you don't have to do everything every day the same way and call it a ritual. Your ritual can be different every day.
Absolutely.
It's like where you find the sacred.
I love how you say that you're doing that by listening to your body, right? And listening to what your body wants, because everyone, even if you're not super spiritually connected that way, like, when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Your stomach starts grumbling. You know what that feels like? It's time for lunch. We don't always know what it feels like when our spirit's grumbling for something. When we're hungry for a different kind of connection from our body. But that stuff comes up in our body too. Yeah. And if you get experienced at checking in and listening to it every day, that check-in alone is so useful. Whether it's the reflection on the tarot card or whatever ritual you cook up, or one of ours in the bedroom coven, we do a lot of rituals like this. It gives you this moment of, how am I? What are my needs right now? Does my body need something? Am I missing something? Life isn't just checking things off lists, Yeah. We've got to check in with our heart. We've got to check in with the people that we love. Make sure that we're feeding not just our body, but our spirit too.
Absolutely. One little story time about that. I've been in my single era, which has been very powerful and also difficult in many ways because of what we were talking about earlier with the social programming and the desire for love and blah blah blah. Relationship is like a worthy craving and desire, and so I've really been working with that right now. And I had a lot of shame around wanting to be a partner, around wanting to be in love. I'm a very strong, independent lady, So I don't have a lot of good role models for what it looks like to be two people in an integrity relationship. And I'm still learning what that is for me. And recently, I've been starting to do a lot more work with accepting my singleness and then falling in love with the divine, and having this erotic relationship with the divine as an entity, when I'm alone with myself. And in doing that, I've been able to decode a lot of my shame and just be able to say, I really want to be held. I really just want to be held. And then I had the craziest string of events, and this is some divine feminine shit, because when you're in your divine feminine, you're very receptive, you know? Like, you can really just, like, magnetize things to you. And so I won free tickets to this super high vibe festival. And then I ended up, like, I went over to my friend's partner yoga class, and I did not have a partner to do it with. And I set my yoga mat at the very back, like, just outside the tent. And she was like, oh, do you want to come inside? And, like, you know, you can do it with everyone else even though you're alone. And I was like, no, hold on, I'm manifesting. And because, like, I just knew. I was like, I've been wanting to be held so much. This is partner yoga at this really cool place. Like, it's going to be totally fine. And within 2 minutes, this very handsome, very kind man comes in, and he doesn't have a partner, and it's his first time doing partner yoga, and my first time doing partner yoga. And so for 45 minutes, we have just, like, we're both so into it. We're both so, like, deep. We give each other a really good hug. We help each other stretch. And then by the time that we're done, we, you know, say thank you, and we both, like, go our separate ways. And it wasn't one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is my true love. Like, we're going to be together forever. But it was one of those moments where the universe was like, I hear you. Like, I know, I hear what you need. You want to be held. You deserve to be held. And I'm going to give it to you in the way that aligns with your highest good right now. And that made me feel so seen and supported and understood. And I've seen stuff like that happen time and time again for people who start doing this work with us. Like, one of my previous clients, she went from working kind of like a pretty corporate job into manifesting her own photography studio and finding all of the people that she wanted to collaborate with. And
that's
now
so magical.
It's so cool. Now she's, like, one of the head collaborators at this photography collective, and they do all these, like, concerts and interesting, unique shoots. And it's because she was able to name her desire, and she pulled it to her, you know? And that's just one example of the ways that we've seen that for so many people.
And if you stick around for the extended edition, we're going to talk about Mama Gina's book in our Sexy Book Club with the podcast. And she talks a lot about that desire. In fact, that's one of my favorite exercises that she brings up, is where you name your desires, especially among your community of your sister goddesses.
Yeah.
So that we can really reflect back to each other the worthiness of that desire. We can manifest together the things, small and large, that we want for our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. This has been awesome. So just a quick recap of the 5 things that you need to know about the sacred feminine. Number 1, everyone has it. Divine feminine, divine masculine, it's a polarity. It's an energy. You can be anywhere on the scale. It can be fluid and it can change. Number 2, your spiritual journey is connected to your body. Your relationship to your body. Your body is your compass, your guide to the divine. You can look within and experience the divinity that everyone's talking about. Number 3, you can also find that divinity in your community, in your friends, and your other sister goddesses that are in your life. Number 4, you hold the wisdom, the triumphs, also the pain of the ancestors, of the women in your lineage. And it is part of our healing journey and our spiritual journeys to be able to understand the things that nobody before us was able to understand, and to heal them, and to get to evolve and live better lives through this process of self-discovery and following your desire. And number 5, we can find the divine feminine, the sacred, the numinous divine, the pleasurable in everything, every day, if we choose to look for it.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
Yeah.
And so it is, this or better.
So let us know where you find that connection to the sacred feminine in your life, where it shows up for you and what makes you feel feminine.
And if this video was valuable to you, or you found something really interesting, we would love if you could support our work by giving us a like or a subscribe, or sharing it with one of your friends, or just coming back and listening to that part again. You can also check out all of our offerings. We are prolific
We do a lot
with our work with the collective in the links below, and we would love to talk to you, and we look forward to...
Come see us in the witch's bedroom.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.